Hello, Williamson Planet. Welcome back to my channel. Today's topic, we're going to talk about power and how actual power works in the United States of America and in the world for that matter. Now, when we talk about power, I'm not talking about electricity or solar power. We're talking about political power and the nexus among things like politics, money, etc. There's been a lot of misinformation that affects communities. And well, anyone who follows Williamson Planet knows a lot of my posts are about empowering Black people. And it's really about empowering America and the world as a whole, or empowering people as a whole. But I tend to concentrate on African Americans as I'm myself African American, and I'm thinking about people who share my common history and my common struggles, even though I think much of what I talk about can be beneficial to society at large. Now, when we talk about things like power, you hear all different types of things. Of course, many people understand different parts of how society works. People understand their jobs. They understand, who are their bosses, things like that. They understand things like elections. They understand that voting gives them some sort of power. But I just want to go into all the different, what I call poles of power in the United States in particular, because I want to get rid of a lot of the misinformation that some people have. Like you have people believing, oh, there's the Illuminati, or they believe this group or that group runs the government secretly behind the scenes. And they have all these types of misinformation and don't know there are truth to some things, but I want to explain to you exactly how things work. Okay, when we talk about the world, right? The world, we have about 8 billion people. The world is divided in about 195 countries. There are a couple places in this world where exists and may even be under control of a government, but may not be considered a country, such as Western Sahara, for example, even though the government of Morocco administers it. So let's start with the acceptance that the world is approximately 195 countries. Here in our country, the United States of America, I'm going to talk about how power is structured, right? First of all, the ultimate authority in the United States of America is the United States federal government. The federal government, of course, is broken into 3 parts. There's the executive, the judicial, and the legislative, right? The executive is run by the elected president, who today is Donald J. Trump. We then have the legislative body, which is made up of 2 houses, the upper house, the Senate, and the lower house, the House of Representatives. The upper house, of course, we have 50 states. U.S. is 50 states, the District of Columbia, which is separate, which is Washington, D.C. And we have, I believe, there are 8 U.S. territories. Territories meaning outside, you have the 48 contiguous states, and there are 50, not 52 states. I had this discussion with people because there are 48 contiguous states, and then there is Alaska and Hawaii, and that makes the 50. Then the territories include places like Guam, Puerto Rico, American Samoa, U.S. Virgin Islands, and some other territories that the U.S. owns out in other parts of the world that for reasons in history we own. Like we've owned Guam and Puerto Rico since the Spanish-American War of 1898. Spain used to own them. We had a fight with Spain and we took them and never let them go. In fact, we even took the Philippines then also and actually ruled the Philippines until the 1930s. But that's another vlog. Anyway, so back to power. So for the legislative body, as I mentioned, we have 533 individuals. The upper house is the Senate. There are 2 senators elected from each state. They're elected for 6-year terms. There are representatives at the lower house, the 433. Basically, you divide the entire population of the United States, which is approximately 330 million people out of the 8 billion in the world, by 433. And that's how you get the number of Congress people, as they call them, even though they're not all of Congress, they're just the lower house, the House of Representatives, right? So that's the federal government, right? And the highest paper authority that gives the three, well, I didn't mention the third branch of government, of course, which is the judiciary, which is the United States, the highest level of that is the United States Supreme Court, and 9 justices. They're appointed by the president, but have to be approved by the Senate. And once they're approved by the Senate, they serve lifetime terms, right? So those are your 3 branches of the government. All the government was created through the United States Constitution, which is the document that was created after we won the Revolutionary War against Great Britain. The war that was fought technically started in 1775 when the first shots were fired up in Concord, etc., in Massachusetts, and ran until 1781. And later on, after we won the war, we got together the Constitution, and we call it ratification of the Constitution. So the Constitution, that written document, and the different people from the different states that came together and ratified that, created the document that basically is the foundational authority for the creation of the United States federal government. Okay, so you have the executive branch, legislative branch, judicial branch. After that, in the 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution, it gives states rights to create basically their own government and laws separate from the federal government's laws, which means states can create their own governments and laws and become sub-sovereigns, if you want to call them that, as long as what they do does not violate the United States federal Constitution, right? So we have 50 states. Each state has the right to create their own executive branch, their own judicial branch, and their own legislative branches, right? Now, let's talk about, so that's how government is structured. In the state of New Jersey, where I am domiciled, we have, you go lower than the state government to county governments, right? And so, for example, New Jersey has 21 counties. And in these counties have the right to create the state laws, and in turn give counties the right to create their own governments, right? So counties, for example, can create a head of the county called a county executive, who basically oversees county level government, right? So, for example, in Mercer County, New Jersey, the county level government are things like the county roads, the county park system, the county correctional facility, which people call the workhouse, the county airport, right? To some degree, the sheriff's department, which is the county level police force, etc. So all things at the county level. Then below the county level is the municipal government. Municipal governments can be, they're different things in different states. Usually they're created by state law. So an individual state like New Jersey can create, allow for municipalities to have governments, and there are different types of governments, right, that they can create. But essentially they have a mayor, elected mayor, and then they have which is basically the executive, and then you have the legislative part, which is a council, right? And now they also have a judicial part, but it's not, well, you could say that judicial part is basically interprets municipal ordinances, but also interprets, generally speaking, state laws that are administered at the local level. For example, traffic laws. In New Jersey, for example, New Jersey's traffic code is Title 39. Those are state-made laws. However, municipal judges have a right to interpret that when people are charged with violation of the state driving laws. Now, let's look at how power, that's the structure of government. Now, let's look at the things which influence government. The biggest influencers of government are people, right? And people, people make the world go around, and people influence government in different ways, right? The most direct way is when they vote for government officials during elections. Other ways, and this is where money gets involved at different levels. There are many different, what I call poles of power, right? In this world, we have over 3,000 billionaires. And in the United States alone, we have 900 billionaires.